The moment I blinked, my kitchen had vanished. 1 second I was trying to figure out if burnt toast counted as breakfast or a minor chemical hazard. The next, I was standing on a smooth platform that hummed like a refrigerator with stage fright. The air was too clean, too still, and smelled faintly of ozone and something floral I couldn't place. My hands went straight to my pockets, padding for keys, wallet, and dignity, all missing. That's when she appeared. She floated down a ramp that curved like liquid silver, and I immediately noticed her ears. Long, tapered, elegant as if sculpted by someone who actually cared about aesthetics, twitching slightly when she frowned at the air. She looked human enough that I felt a brief comfort, until she tilted her head, and the way her eyes caught the light made my knees wobble like I'd just walked on a trampoline in zero gravity. Her voice when she spoke was a calm vibration in the chest, like a tuning fork in a cathedral. "Human," she said, which was not very reassuring. Her hands gestured, delicate, precise, as if conducting an invisible orchestra of bureaucracy. "You have been chosen." I blinked. Chosen for housekeeping. I attempted a joke because humor is survival instinct number one. She did not laugh, not a twitch. Her ears twitched. Apparently that counted for something. "No," she said, with a clarity that should have been illegal. "To be my caretaker." Caretaker? I wasn't even good at taking care of my own plants. One of them died because I forgot to water it while binge-watching documentaries about desert ecosystems. Still, apparently, my resume as a guy who occasionally fed cacti qualified me to restore the fading power of an alien queen. "You know," I tried, hoping humor would save me, "I can vacuum. I'm very good with a mop. And I make a mean instant coffee." Her expression was enigmatic, but the ears betrayed a twitch, maybe irritation, maybe curiosity. I honestly had no idea which. She gestured again, and the platform beneath me rotated, showing a throne room that stretched wider than any building I'd ever seen. Walls of polished crystal that refracted the ceiling's light in confusing rainbow patterns. Robots or statues, I couldn't tell, lined the sides, and their faces were perfectly expressionless. I felt like an ant dropped into a palace of glass and lasers. "You are not here for mundane service," she said. "Your purpose is to stabilize me." I wanted to ask, "Stabilize you how?" But I suspected the answer would involve physics I didn't understand, or worse, biology that made my stomach crawl. Instead, I offered my hand. "Hi, I'm Dave. I'm your caretaker now. Do we shake hands in your I trailed off, embarrassed. She regarded my hand for a long moment, and then very carefully she took it. Her skin was surprisingly warm, and the faint pulse beneath her palm made me panic slightly. I panicked more when I realized her grip was firm but gentle, like she could crush me but chose not to. "Human," she said again, this time softer. "You have potential, though you are clumsy. Your species is unpredictable. That is acceptable." I swallowed. "I'll try not to break anything important, that's my promise." I added, like us sacred alien crystals or I don't know lives. Her ears twitched sharply now, and she tilted her head so far I feared they might touch her shoulders. "You are amusing." Amusing. I had a weird sense of victory. My first alien approval. I mentally high-fived myself. Then I realized the throne room seemed to vibrate, like the air itself was alive. She gestured to a floating console, one that blinked and hummed with 1,000 tiny lights. "You must learn the ritual of renewal," she said, "to restore my power." I blinked. Ritual of renewal, is that like yoga? She didn't laugh. Her ears twitched. I was beginning to suspect twitching was the closest she got to humor. "No, you will learn." I stepped forward, almost tripping on what I thought was a shadow and turned out to be a hovering maintenance drone. I waved apologetically. The drone beeped in what I interpreted as judgment. "First lesson," she said, "is to offer me something from your world, symbolic of life's resilience." I panicked. My hands grabbed the first thing within reach, a granola bar sitting on the edge of the platform. I held it out like an offering to a deity who may or may not vaporize me for being a clumsy mortal. Her eyes widened slightly. Her ears twitched. She took the bar, examining it with meticulous care. "The earth nut of hospitality," she murmured, as though pronouncing a sacred incantation. I nodded proud. "Yeah, I make those sacredly too." She regarded me silently, then nodded once decisively, as if my accidental gift had passed some unseen test. "You will do," she said. And just like that, I was no longer a man in his pajamas, fumbling with burnt toast. I was a human caretaker to a queen whose power was failing, in a palace that hummed with machines older than my comprehension, tasked with restoring her vitality, or dying in the attempt. I took a deep breath, imagining my mom would have been proud, or disappointed, probably both. The queen floated closer, her ears flicking with every motion. "Come," she said, voice softening, "you must begin." I followed, imagining myself tripping over my own feet in a galaxy far stranger than I ever imagined. And for some reason, I was already laughing. Not because it was funny, but because if I didn't, I might cry. A floating drone zipped past, bumping into my shoulder. I waved. It beeped. Maybe in alien language that meant, "Good luck, human," and I silently decided I'd need it. The first thing I noticed about palace life was that gravity here was negotiable. Sometimes my feet stuck firmly to the polished floor. Other times I floated as if the universe had forgotten I existed, forcing me to flap my arms like an idiot just to avoid smacking into a wall. The alien queen, with her long, elegant ears twitching as usual, seemed utterly unaffected. She glided beside me, hovering slightly, occasionally flicking a finger to adjust a floating console or redirect a stream of pulsing lights, her eyes calm, precise, like a general reviewing an army of luminous, humming machines. "You will need to understand the flow of energy in this palace," she said, as I nearly collided with a hovering orb that blinked ominously. "Each corridor, each chamber, hums with my people's life force. A careless touch can destabilize it." "I can barely stabilize myself," I muttered, swiping at a rogue holographic panel that had spun into my face. She ignored my complaint, ears twitching, probably calculating whether I was worth keeping alive. I decided my best defense was humor. Should I tie myself to a railing with a rope, or maybe attach a flotation device? She raised an eyebrow, or at least I thought she did, and for a moment I swear she almost smiled. "You have adaptability," she said. "It may save you." Adaptability, I thought, was a polite way of saying completely unprepared human. My first task as caretaker was apparently to stabilize one of her energy conduits. It looked like a massive crystalline tree pulsating with light, veins of pure luminescence flowing like rivers of liquid neon. According to the holographic instructions that floated in midair, I had to synchronize my own bioelectric rhythm with the tree's core, something I assumed involved deep breathing and not passing out. I focused, awkwardly placing my palms against the glowing crystal, muttering, "Please don't fry me. Please don't fry me," like some kind of interstellar mantra. To my surprise, a tiny spark of warmth pulsed back through my hands and the crystal's glow steadied slightly. The queen's ears flicked. "Good," she said. "You feel the energy, most cannot." I puffed out my chest, proud. "I have hands. And a pulse." She gave me a look that suggested that explanation was, at best, half the truth. Later, she took me to the palace library, a vast chamber with floors that spiraled impossibly upward, filled with floating tomes that rearranged themselves according to some algorithm of knowledge I didn't dare try to decipher. She gestured to one which floated toward us, opening to a page of glowing symbols. "You must understand the histories of my people. Only then will you know why my power wanes." I leaned in, squinting. "Is there a summary version?" Her ears twitched sharply, a warning or a laugh I could never tell. "You will read. Comprehension is part of your duty." I gritted my teeth and began decoding centuries of alien civilization, all while trying to avoid stepping on floating furniture or bumping into hovering drones that looked like glass insects. My brain was turning into a sponge soaked in electricity and light. Every once in a while, the queen would float near, observing, her ears brushing back slightly, and I'd feel like the world's most scrutinized science experiment. When we paused for a break, she handed me a small container of something that glowed faintly. "Nourishment," she said. I took a cautious sniff and nearly gagged. "It tastes luminous," I said, "like electric lemon and regret." She tilted her head, ears flicking in something I imagined might be alien amusement. By mid-palace cycle, I had accidentally triggered 3 security wards, floated headfirst into a gravity-shifting corridor, and spilled a tiny energy vial on my sleeve, which, inexplicably, made it levitate slightly above my skin. I looked down at my floating sleeve and muttered, "Well, at least one part of me is behaving." The queen watched silently, her ears twitching in a rhythm I could not decipher. Then without warning she laughed, or at least the sound came from her, vibrating warmly through the air. I blinked. Laughter, my first alien laugh. "You are entertaining," she admitted, tilting her head, long ears flicking with each word. "Perhaps your clumsiness is useful. It reveals truths humans often hide." I stared. "Reveals truths. I'm just trying not to die in your hallway." Her smile, subtle, touched her lips. "Perhaps survival is a form of truth." That evening, when the palace glimmered in the violet light of twin moons, the queen led me to a chamber that hummed with ancient power. "Tonight, you will attempt the ritual of renewal," she said. "It is not simple. Many fail." I glanced at the floating, pulsing energy sphere at the center of the room and gulped. "Many fail," I repeated. "Do we get a medal if we survive?" Her ears twitched sharply. "Success is its own reward. Survival is the first trial." I swallowed, palms sweaty, and approached the sphere. Following her instructions, I placed my hands on the light, matching my breathing to its pulse. At first, nothing happened. Then a warm surge traveled through me, lights flickering, walls vibrating gently, and I heard a soft, approving hum from the queen. "You are learning," she said, voice calm, ears flicking in a pattern that now felt reassuring. "You have a natural rhythm." I grinned, proud, and muttered under my breath, "I have a natural rhythm of panic, mostly." She twitched her ears, but this time I swear it was amusement. By the time the palace lights dimmed for the night cycle, I had survived the ritual without disintegrating, learned part of the history of her people without fainting, and managed not to break any major equipment, though the floating vases were now slightly off-kilter. The queen regarded me with a small, approving nod, ears brushing back lightly. "You will continue tomorrow," she said, floating upward toward her chambers. "You are promising." I watched her go, ears still twitching, and muttered to myself, "Promising or doomed. One of the two." Then I laughed because if I didn't, I might start crying, and the floating vases didn't need that kind of drama. The moment the alarms began, I knew I had done something very wrong, or at least very clumsy. Red lights flashed, the hum of the palace escalated to a high-pitched wail, and the air shimmered as if reality itself was nervous. The queen appeared beside me, floating with her long ears alert, eyes sharp, but there was a flicker of amusement, or maybe exasperation, in her expression. "They have struck," she said calmly. "The conspirators who wish to replace me." I looked around. Panels were sparking, corridors twisting unpredictably, and a drone zipped past me, colliding with my shoulder. Do we fight them, or do we, I don't know, politely ask them to leave?" She tilted her head, ears brushing back in what I now recognized as a mixture of humor and determination. "We do what must be done. You, human, will aid me as caretaker, and more." "More," I blinked. "As in, more than carrying granola bars." She gave no explanation. Her hands flicked, and the walls shifted, revealing a hidden elevator descending into catacombs that hummed with ancient power. "The energy core that sustains my life and this palace lies below. If they reach it first, the kingdom will fall." I swallowed, glancing at the glowing passageway. "Do they come with instructions or user manuals?" Her ears twitched. "You will learn as we go. Hurry." We descended. the catacombs expanding into cavernous spaces where machines older than either of us pulsed with an almost musical rhythm. Energy streams danced across the walls, casting light that flickered like auroras. I stumbled over a control panel, accidentally triggering a sequence that sent a harmless, but very loud, shockwave through the chamber. The Queen's ears twitched sharply, but there was a hint of amusement. "Human," she said, voice vibrating gently, "your unpredictability is effective." I muttered, "Yeah, effective in ways I probably shouldn't admit to HR. We encountered the conspirators halfway to the core, a group of nobles with sleek energy weapons and rigid expressions. I panicked, thinking of retreat, but the Queen placed a hand on my shoulder, warm and steady. "Focus. You have learned more than you realize." More than I realized. I glanced down at my hands, remembering the rituals, the synchronization with the energy trees, the humming conduits. Somehow, in a mix of panic and accidental brilliance, I had begun to sense the flow of energy in ways I didn't understand but could respond to. The battle was chaotic. I floated awkwardly, trying not to crash into anything, swinging my hands at energy pulses in ways that mostly deflected attacks by pure luck. The Queen moved with elegance, her ears flicking, eyes sharp, weaving through threats while I followed like a very clumsy shadow. One of the conspirators lunged, energy blade raised, and I dove forward without thinking, blocking with my arm, and accidentally redirecting the pulse back, knocking him out. She regarded me with raised eyebrows, ears flicking, and for a moment I thought she might be laughing. "You are extraordinary," she said, voice softening. We reached the energy core, a crystalline sphere of blinding light suspended in a web of ancient machinery. The conspirators were regrouping, but I stepped forward, hands trembling. "Okay, deep breath, human. You've got this somehow." The Queen extended her hands, energy radiating from her, and I mirrored her cautiously. The core pulsed in response, light flowing through my veins, warmth spreading, and I felt a connection to her and the palace that went beyond fear or confusion. The conspirators charged, but together, our combined force of focus, instinct, and accidental brilliance created a pulse of energy that sent them tumbling harmlessly backward. When the light settled, the core stabilized, glowing steadily. The Queen's power returned fully, her ears flicking as she floated toward me. "Human, you have restored me." I stumbled forward, panting. I didn't mean to, mostly. Her hands reached for mine. "By the laws of my people, a caretaker who restores the Queen's power is destined to be her partner." I froze, partner. I glanced at her, heart racing, trying to process. "Wait, like married." Her ears twitched with amusement, or was it anticipation? "Yes, by ancient custom this bond is now sealed. Your service, your courage, your humanity has become indispensable." I swallowed, realizing that the journey had changed me. I had started as a bumbling, terrified human who could barely manage toast. Now, I felt capable, aware of energies beyond my world, and deeply connected to someone I had never imagined I could understand. "I guess I accept," I said finally, trying to keep my voice steady. "Though I still think granola bars were a highlight of my contribution." She laughed softly, a sound vibrating in my chest. Her ears flicked playfully. "Yes, earthnut of hospitality. Do not underestimate it. Humor has its power." We left the catacombs, the palace stable and glowing with renewed energy. The conspirators were detained, their ambitions thwarted without bloodshed, mostly thanks to my unpredictable interventions. The Queen floated beside me, and I realized the palace corridors no longer intimidated me. I could navigate them with growing confidence, even with the occasional float or stumble. In the weeks that followed, our partnership deepened. I learned the subtleties of alien court life, and she learned to tolerate my clumsy humor and penchant for human exclamations. Together, we restored more than her energy. We stabilized trust, forged alliances, and even found moments to laugh at the absurdity of our situations, like floating furniture or misbehaving drones. By the time her power fully returned, and the palace shimmered in its rightful glory, I stood beside her, no longer just a caretaker but a partner in every sense. I had grown into someone capable of more than survival, capable of understanding, of connection, and of navigating the strange, luminous currents of a universe far larger than myself. Her long ears brushed back, lightly, affectionately, as she glanced at me. "You have become remarkable human." I grinned, feeling the pulse of energy between us, steady, alive, and real. "And you've become my queen but also my friend. Mostly because I'm still not sure I fully understand half the things here." She laughed, that calm, vibrating sound, ears flicking. "Then we shall continue learning together." For the first time in my life, I felt entirely, unshakably at home. Not on Earth, not in this palace, but in the rhythm we had created, unpredictable, imperfect, and entirely ours.